Hi, folks. I wanted to share a story with you guys this morning. That's a little bit of the impetus for the creation of this Women's Anger Burn coming up on September 22nd, Sunday. In May, my grandmother passed away, the matriarch of the matrilineal line. And the same day that I got the news of her passing, in fact, just 2 hours later, I got the news of when and where my hub blood chart would be, my vision quest. I've been waiting to do this vision quest for 11 years. The time is not always right, but it certainly was. I knew that it was this year. So with the timing being so close together like that, I knew that there was also a link between the two. Of course, sometimes it takes sitting in the woods with no food or water for 4 days to figure out what that connection is. A lot of it I still, quite frankly, don't know. But there's this, while I was out there on the hill, as they say, a lot flowed through my body about my grandmother. There was a peace when I was out there praying where I felt like my whole body opened up and became an empty vessel for my mother's emotions to flow through. So a little background story is that my grandmother was an addict. She had a rough life growing up, and the way that she was hardwired was that she took to alcohol primarily. Alcohol was her drug of choice, to attempt to escape feeling or dealing with those challenges in her early life. Unfortunately, the way that played out was that it kept her stuck in a particular moment in time. So instead of being able to feel and deal with that pain, she was forever mired in it. But that kind of addiction is also a state of limbo. You're not feeling completely, so it can never run its course. You're just stuck. And that addiction ended up having consequences. So when my body opened up to allow for my mother's emotions to wash through me, it was a combination of, well, a lot of anger, quite frankly, a lot of anger and pain for the consequences incurred by the daughter of the mother of an addict. Grief was present, but the feeling was that the grief was for the life that was lost, right? The life that was never allowed to be. And what I saw in a vision related to those emotions that weren't mine flowing through my body was seeing a woman, my grandmother, who felt in some ways so powerless in her own life for 80 years, plus years. This woman was tortured herself with all of that pain and the feelings of impotence and loss of control and all of the other myriad feelings of victimhood and pain and loss and lack of power. And what I also saw was exactly how much power she had. She affected the generations, I mean, how many generations ahead of her? 7, one would say. And she didn't just affect the generations ahead of her, she also affected the generations behind her. This woman who felt so powerless and so out of control had all the control. She had all the power. And it wasn't until her passing that our family has been able to start the work of healing and untangling the knots of dysfunction that were woven by just one woman. And I say that she affected the generations ahead of her because she carried the eggs in her body that would one day create me. Think about that. Mothers, just as I have housed the eggs inside of my body that might potentially one day be my grandchildren if Vivian decides that she wants to have children. And on top of the genetic influence, the emotional influence that a mother has on her child in utero, and the genes that are passed down, the parenting that my mother received was transferred to me, and the parenting that I received from my mother and also my grandmother has now transferred to my daughter. So what I want to say with all of this is just to highlight how much power women have in the world. For many thousands of years, women have been victims. And at exactly the same time, we have always had the power. Man and woman are just two sides of the same coin. We are different, for sure, and we are also equal. And ladies, this might be controversial to say, but we are the ones sitting in the driver's seat. And as some of you might see, when look around, this cart, the train's a little off the rails right now, let's say. The horse has run away with the cart. And it's time for us as women to wake up to the fact that we are in the driver's seat. And that it's time for us to pick those reins back up and start steering this crazy, out of control cart. There's a lot of healing that needs to happen in the next few generations, and it will take that long. If the whole world were to wake up right now and be healed miraculously in an instant, it would still take 3 to 5 generations for the whole world to realize what true feminine leadership means. But I believe that it's possible. And in the spirit of that, I have teamed up with the incomparable Amor Luz and Kristen Davis to create this half-day workshop that will be the beginning, hopefully, of really beautiful processes that we walk with women, with our fellow sisters through. Everything is I mean, this is a trial. This is an experiment that we're creating. And I'd love to have you join us. If you feel called to do this kind of work, to meet your anger in a good way, to feel it working through your body, and to transform that rage and those feelings of impotence and victimhood into power, and use that as a motivation for where you want to take your world, for the change that you want to see in your life. Please join us Sunday, September 22nd for Feel the Burn, Women Expressing Anger. Thank you for listening. I'll see you soon.